Shalom. I want to start this off by giving honor, praise, and glory to YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWAH. Peace and salutations to the elect men of Israel, starting with the elder apostles of GMS, going on down to the rest of you brothers who are diligently pushing forth the will and doctrine of YAHAWASHI in all faith, truth, and sincerity, according to the true understanding of the scriptures. To all of you, I say shalom. So this is going to be a lesson basically going into how the mind is a fickle thing, right? And that's why we must keep our mind on the scriptures and the Most High. You know, we got to make sure that we keep our mind occupied and continuously and diligently within the Lord's word, within his spirit, the spirit of YAHAWASHI, right? And staying close to his spirit of wisdom, you know? So I just got a few scriptures lined up just to tie this all in, you know? So we just going to hop straight into it and Lord willing, this be all edifying. So this is Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 9. It says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" You know, with the heart being desperately wicked, right? Being subject to whatever because it's of the flesh. It's like, because of it being of the flesh, it's susceptible to just about everything, you know? And it's through our flesh that we sin, that we go off, you know? Your flesh is what has you doing things that you ought not to do, know not to do, know that you shouldn't do, or wish that you wouldn't do, you know? As I believe it was Peter that went on to say that, you know, that which I hate, I do, you know, roughly paraphrasing that account, right? But it's all through the flesh that we go off at, you know, because it's how the scripture says, it says Matthew 26 and verse 41, it says, "Watch and pray that ye enter not into that ye enter not into temptation." It says the spirit indeed is willing, you see, but the flesh is weak. So your spirit is willing to do what's needed and to do what's right, but it's your flesh that's weak. Your flesh is what's wanting to go off, because it's subject to Satan. It's subject to our wickedness, you know. It's subject to decay and death, right? But the spirit is lively. The spirit is a fire, you know, and that's why it's like a train, you know. With the train, right? You gotta keep giving it fuel for that fire to keep burning, for the engine to keep moving, and so that way, basically the train has power to keep moving forward, you know. And that fuel, in our case, right, is this word, you know, is the Lord's spirit, right? We take and eat of his spirit, so that way our spirit is likened unto his, you know, where we have his spirit within us and we're operating in alliance and according to his word, you know. So jumping here, this is Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 15. It says, "See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." You see, as being wise, right? To be wise, you gotta have wisdom, you know, and the wisdom that's gonna truly stand is the wisdom of the Lord, You know, the wisdom of this world is not going to stand, right? It hasn't been established by YAHAWASHI. But if you applying and you are walking in accordance to his wisdom, right, to his spirit, you gonna be prudent. You could be walking circumspectly, paying attention to your surroundings, pay attention to what's going on, paying attention to what you're indulging in, paying attention to what's around you, what you're surrounding yourself with, all these different things, right? Paying attention to your actions, paying attention to certain things that you may neglect or reject, or the things that you accept, you know, or the things that you do entertain, you condone, you know, all these different things, right? You're going to be considerate to really pay attention and meditate, or really take heed to what it is that you're dealing with and how it's going to affect you. You know, people in the world, people that are reprobates, people that aren't of the Lord, right? Aren't of the Lord's elect or the hopeful elect. They're just tossed to and fro. They just move willy-nilly. They just go off of how they feel, you know. But we understand how the last scripture said the heart is deceitful, you know what I'm saying, desperately wicked above all things, you know. So you don't want to trust in your flesh. You don't want to trust in you don't want to trust in your own mind. You know, you don't want to trust in anything that isn't directly tied to the Lord. You know, you want to trust in his word, in his mind, in his thoughts, right? His guidance, his principles, his discipline. You know, his reproof, his correction, because it's going to be those things that are going to help you to be able to see what it is that you need to do, what you need to do better at, where you're failing at, you know, all the things that need to be considered, so that way you can constantly move forward, right? But it says what? Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. We understand the times that we're in. These aren't good times. A whole lot of wickedness is going on, you know? So that's why you have to be even more cautious and aware of what it is that you're doing and indulging in, because how wicked things are. Things are so wicked, you know, things that would be trivial, minute, could lead you to going to hell off, you know, whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, that's why you want to really be paying attention to what it is that you're doing. And this, you know, goes for myself first and foremost. But nonetheless, these are things to be mindful of, you know, especially things that are pertaining to you and your well-being, you know. But it says what? Verse 17 says, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is, right? Understanding his will, because that's what we are to do. You know, if we're to walk like YAHAWASHI, right? Which it says in what? That's 1 John 2 and 6. It says, he that saith he abideth in him ought himself, right? So that man, you, right, that if you say that you abide in YAHAWASHI, right, you're supposed to walk like him, you know. So it says, he that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked, you know. So if that's the case, right, what does it say? I think I'm getting the right scripture. No. I think it's John. Here, let me just do like this. Okay, kind. Yep. So this is John chapter 4 and verse 34. It says, YAHAWASHI saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work. You see? So if you're walking like YAHAWASHI, right, you're going to be looking to do the will of the Father, You know, you're gonna be looking to do what it is that was given to you, right? This gift of the Spirit, this gift of truly understanding and knowing who you really are. You know, being brought into the Father's business, our Father's business, right? This ministry, you're gonna be looking to do what you can with it, with this word. You know, how you can live it out, how can you apply it to your day-to-day, dealings, because it's real life. This isn't, a facade. This isn't a show. You know what I'm saying? Like brothers have been talking about, specifically speaking, as far as the brothers that I congregate with, the brothers I'm amongst. These are things that's been mentioned, and we talked about at our past last week's highways. Specifically speaking, but it's not a facade. This word is meant to be, how would I say, digested as nourishment for yourself, first and foremost, right? And you taking heed to it for yourself and seeing what's good of it for yourself, right? Proving it and understanding it for yourself, because that's the only way that you're truly going to be able to speak on these things in a way to where others can receive it, because you're speaking life. You're speaking of life and speaking life into it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's within your life. The more that you apply it to yourself, the more you speaking it into reality. The more you're able to help others be able to see it in likeness. See it amongst their reality. Because this word is living. But it says what? Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. It says, and be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. So you want to be drunk off the wine of this world, because it's one on the surface level, right? When you drunk, you intoxicated. When you intoxicated, you're not in your natural state where you're fully conscious and aware of yourself, or having full control over yourself, and that's where we are to be. We're supposed to be able to stand firm and be in control of ourselves, and not allowing other things to have rule or control over ourselves. Those are things that you want to be mindful of. And this world, how this world is set up in a way to try to devour you, to try to get you off your swivel. If you're intoxicated to where you're drunk, it's like you're impaired. Like your equilibrium isn't fully sound at 100% capacity. It's not working properly, to where you're unbalanced, if you will. So much to the point to where any little thing can knock you off, or you are unaware or are unable to have the type of control that you need. So just in likeness with the wine, it's the same case with this world. And you don't want to be drunk with other doctrines. You want to be soberly minded with the doctrine of YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI. And the way that you do this is through action. You got to put these things to work. You know what I'm saying? You can't just speak of these things, because that's what everybody do. Everybody try to speak on things that they don't truly understand. But the way that you truly understand is by being in the scriptures, constantly reading, constantly giving attention to them, seeking understanding from those that set up above you, those that are set up to teach you, right? Having that one teacher that you can go to, that one counselor that you could go to, amongst many, but just being mindful of having that one, but not the point, because specifically it's just making sure that you taking heed to doing the work to get the results. You want to make sure that you putting time and energy into this, because this is your livelihood, this is your life. You know what I'm saying, on the line. You want to make sure that you put an action to it, because that's how you're able to prove it. That's how you're able to prove what the scriptures say to be true, right? And that's how you're going to be able to gain that experience. With you gain that experience, you're going to be able to help explain, teach, another through you understanding and having that experience, right? This is James 1 and verse 22. It says, "But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves." You see? Because you not putting it to action. You able to still be compromised because you're not proving it. You not actually doing it. You being a hypocrite ultimately. If you trying to tell somebody to do something and you not doing it yourself, or you haven't proved it yourself, how can you really say this is to be true if you haven't lived it? You know what I'm saying? You living it is you building, upon your testimony, Stand on what you do. Do the things so that you can stand on them. So that way they may be true, right? But it says, "For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass." You looking at yourself in the mirror. It says, "For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was." You see? And that's what happens when you just so caught up in the flesh and you not giving attendance to the spirit, taking heed of the spirit and giving attendance to reading, studying to show yourself approved, right? You want to make sure that you're doing these things so that way what manner of man you are to be, because you constantly keeping up with the standard that's been set, that we are to uphold, right? There's certain requirements when it comes to the Lord's, our Father's business, and you got to uphold those things, the way that what you got to do, what the quota is, what measure that you supposed to meet and reach, is by you giving attendance to these words, asking questions, living it out, proving it for yourself, That's how you going to be able to do that, right? And I'm going to get that too, that giving attendance. So this is 1 Timothy 4 and verse 13. It says, "Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine." It says, "Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy." It says, "With the laying on of the hands of the presbytery." It says, "Meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all." So you want to be making sure that you're doing this, because one, this is a commandment from the Lord, So if you truly love the Lord, you're going to keep his commandments, as the scriptures say. If you love me, keep my commandments, right? "Meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all." It says, and that's being a light onto the world, letting your light so shine before men that they may be able to see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You know, the way that you able to allow your works to be seen, and shown to others, right, to where others are able to glorify the Lord. It's through you doing, taking action, constantly reading, constantly applying, and soaking in the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Lord, to where you're able to give it to another, and with you doing so, they able to see, okay, this brother diligent, or this brother, he able to see these things, like, oh, okay, the way he breaking this down, I can really understand this, you give him more foresight, if you will, to the scriptures that's been given to us, right? Because that's gonna take me to my next verse. I'm gonna grab after this, but it says, verse 16: Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them. You see, that's a commandment. Continue in them. It says, for in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. You see? So you doing the work is what's also going to help another be able to do the work. You doing this to save your soul is what's also going to help somebody else to hear this and be able to see, okay, I got to do this, or this, or I see the Lord saying I need to do this, right? So that way I may save my soul, so on and so on and so forth, right? Get my next verse, and I'm going to close out here. Second Timothy 3 and verse 16, it says, all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine. You see? For reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. You see? It says all scripture, started from the Old Testament at Genesis to the Apocrypha, right, all the way to the end into Revelation. It says all scripture is given by the inspiration of God, of YAHAWASHI, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, right? It says what? That the man of God may be perfect. You see? This is how you perfect yourself. This is how you could be fully fed, fully nourished, fully satisfied, right? Fully filled. It's through the Lord's word, through his spirit, and truly understanding and truly taking heed to it. But the only way that you can truly understand and take heed to it is by you taking action, making sure that you keeping your mind on these scriptures and on the Most High, on YAHAWASHI. But it says that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. You see? You being so perfectly well equipped with the Lord's word, you understand the Lord's word so well that everything that you do just omits his spirit, just so just promotes him, so that all that may see what you do, they can glorify him, because you're not looking to glorify yourself, you looking for the Lord to glorify you, with you giving him praise and you worshiping him and you seeking to follow him and to learn of him, he gonna exalt you in due time. So that's why you wanna keep your mind on the scriptures, on the Lord, right? Because that way you can have your head on the swivel. That way you circumspect to pay attention to what's going on. All the different thoughts, the different things that's being said. There's life and death in the power of the tongue. So you want to be mindful and pay attention to what it is that you listen to, what you occupy your mind with. Because we looking to be saved. We looking to receive salvation. We're looking to get beamed up on those chariots. You know, we're looking to be protected when things get worse. You know, because those days are further drawing nigh and nigh. You know, they're already upon us, but we not even in the thick of it yet. You know, things is ready to get way worse. So that's why you want to get on top of it now while you can, before it's too late. You know. So that's pretty much it. You know, Lord willing, this has been edifying. You know, the mind is a fickle thing. But that's why we must keep our mind on the scriptures and the Most High. So with that, I'm going to say, call halam yalah, call halal yalah, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWASHI, YAHAWAH. Till next time.